104. It came to pass that Moses stepped forward and made his way up to be seen by all. So Christ is stepping forward, or the Messiah is stepping forward. So this is the council of heaven, I think, here. And he said, Father, when your creation first finds form, it will be in a place called Olam. So he's telling them, okay, the first form element will take, it will be in Olam. And when your children exercise their agency in righteousness, creation will transform to become Eden. But when they use their agency to choose sin, Eden will transform once again to become the temporal earth. And the task at hand is to cause your presence to go with them into the temporal world, temporal earth. So you see, we have the first is Olam. When your children when creation first finds form, it will be in Olam. When they are exercising agency, they will transform Olam into Eden. And when they use the agency to choose sin, Eden will be transformed into a temporal earth. So if you take example of Adam and Eve, first they are taken from Olam, which is outside the garden, into the garden of love, where they are there exercising their agency in righteousness. And then they sinned while in the garden of love, and the garden changed and became the temporal world where we are right now. So, but before they found form, they were created where? In elder. Okay, let me just go for it so that I don't get ahead of myself. And while agency came about because there's an edge at eternity, a plan of salvation has been established for the intervention of my agency will bring the repentant back into your presence in elder, but the forgiveness of sin. So Christ is saying, when they start to exercise, make the decisions for themselves, and they sin, the plan of salvation is already in place. And myself, as the Messiah, I'll be able to gather them back into you, make them be forgiven, or have the chance to be forgiven. And once they are forgiven, they will come back to you in elder, because that's where the Father stays. And there is a second force in creation, which is the intervention of agents of righteous mankind, that may be established to make your fatherhood an eternal certainty, so that righteousness can be established and prosper to redemption. So redemption comes through Messiah and the use of agents of righteous mankind. So people like Adam, people like Enoch, people like Noah, people like Abraham, people like all the prophets and righteous men. So they help bring redemption through the teaching of the Gospels and the expressions of virtue. And where you create this spirit of God is central to enable it. And mankind, Enoch spoke again, he said, wherefore, how shall we determine where to create all the spiritual things of men, seeing they shall dwell in Olam, or in Eden, or the earth? So now here, I want to skip after, but I want to show the two sides of the coin, the knowledge of the tree of knowledge of good and the tree of knowledge of evil. So now, let's start with 107. We'll be talking about the Satans. And it came to pass, after Enoch had posed this question, a watcher was standing by, who is called Azael. So Azael is one who taught, okay, let me just read. So a watcher was standing by, who is called Azael, and he's a meteorite ion. So Azael is a meteorite. The Lucifer also is a meteorite ion. And he stood, or I don't know, should I say it's a meteorite? I don't know, so it's an ion or rock or meteorite ore to put it. And he stood boldly forth and said, O Father, will you not declare after you have created all things that all that you have created is good, and you will not consider them good, even though they transformed from Olam into Eden, and from Eden into the temporal world? And that be so, will you not then create all the children of men in the temporal world of the earth, so they can feel at home there, and so that they may be comforted that they truly belong there, seeing that they will surely go there after they sin and go astray, as it has been said. So you see, Azael is playing a deceitful game here. So we're told here above there, the verse, so the creation, we're going to dwell in from Olam, from Elder, we are first created. Then we're going to go on Olam, Eden, and the earth. So Azael, who will be one of the follower, one of the Satans, one to follow away with Satan's, will Lucifer. He say, okay, just create your children on the earth, in the earth, because when they sin, they'll be chased to the earth anyway. So that when they sin now, if they're created in the earth, when they sin, they'll not feel like they miss anything, because that's where they're created anyway. So now let's continue in here. And he continued, he said, and because of their sins, they will become transformed and become subject to the limits of time and the restraints of place. And they will also have delicious afflictions there, and grow old and die there, and their spirit will separate from their bodies. Is it not therefore desirable that both their spirit and body remain in the place that we have called good? So you see now, one thing that we have to realize is we were preordained to die because we couldn't avoid sin, and preparations had already been made because we are going to sin. And this fallen watcher, I'm saying fallen watcher right now because I know he has fallen, but at the time he was not yet chased from heaven, or he was just bad. This is the mindset that I wanted to talk about. We sin and we live our life according to the mindset of the fallen watchers. So let's read 108 and see. And he continued and he said, because of their sins, they will become transformed. So when you sin, you lose your connection to the Holy Spirit. You are chased from the holy places. You are chased from the garden of love, the garden of Eden, and become subject to the limits of time. So now you start to age, and the restraints of the place, you have to limitations, and you lose your powers. And they will also have delicious afflictions there. So you start to get sick and all the things that we go through here, and to grow old and die. And their spirit will separate from their bodies. Is it not therefore desirable that both their spirit and body remain in the place that you have called good? So you see, this is where we are trapped right now. You ask a person, what happens to the spirit when you die? The spirit is separated from the body. This fallen watcher is saying so. But he doesn't want the spirit to transform or to head back to the Father. He wants it trapped in the place where it sinned. And this is the mindset that we have right now, where we only, it's like living life in flesh. is the highest form of living, and there is no life after death. That's the mindset of the fallen, and that's our mindset right now. So 109, and it was of interest to me that there could be such a profound level of deceit. So this guy is very deceitful, and he is in the presence of the Father. And I knew that Mozart, Messiah, and the Council of Edeka noticed it. But apparently Enoch said the Father did not. Why not the Father noticing the deceit of Azael? Because the Father is so pure that he cannot anticipate evil. He can't see deceit. And I wondered if it was because Enoch said could not anticipate evil. He being so loving and divinely holy. So that's the reason. The Father could not anticipate. This guy is the seer is wondering if it was because the Father could not anticipate evil, and he be so loving and divinely holy. And while Azael was speaking, Kabodiel was standing by. Kabodiel is the spirit of the trees, who in this case was a wise old oak tree named Aiel. The oak tree called Aiel is Kabodiel. So this is the spirit of the tree. And this one is one of the 24 elders. Revelation 5 verse 8. And this one has been first inscribed among Kabodiel. Since Olam transformed into Eden, and I recognize her to be the north oak at the Garden of Eden. So this spirit of tree, so what is saying here, after Olam transformed into Eden, she became an oak tree and stationed at the north gate of Eden. And she whispered abroad with a soft voice that sounded like rustling leaves. And she said, the intention of some will be to rebel against Enoch said. So that's what I'm saying. I am saying he's a fallen one. Azael is a fallen watcher because he's intending to rebel. But because we are in the future, in the future right now, that had already happened. He's one of the fallen watchers. So the intention was for them to rebel. The intention of some will be to rebel against the Father during the course of the earth. And their rebellion will be such that they shall desire that all men consider their sin is natural and is unavoidable part of human nature. You do bad and then you say it's human nature. You do bad, feel like cannot be avoided, That's how human beings are, that's how people are. That's how we tell ourselves, because of the fallen watchers. And the sinful will be greatly urged upon to not resist evil. But they will consider that they were made to sin clear from the days of their creation, and they will be taught that their natural character is an enemy to Anokesed, and they will accept sin and corruption. And the unrighteousness will abound, and unrighteousness will abound. And this way, many of the children of Anokesed, the Father, will not pass by me to return to Eden. So the trees say, Azael is laying a trap. He wants to make the children of the Father to be comfortable in sin. They want the way we blame our flesh or attribute it to our nature not to resist sin or do evil. So this is what the spirit of the tree, the oak tree, is saying. So he's making sure they will not pass by the tree at the gate of Eden. So basically they will not enter back into Eden, because he's trapping the children of the Father into sin. 1:11. And I saw that Azael was pushing back at this counsel, and by this they were to subvert the foundations of righteousness was being laid and by his own admission. And he desired effect concerning where to create the children of men. And the desired effect concerning where to create the children of men was to cause unrighteousness to prosper. And it were chosen by men. And Azael continued and he said, since all men will be subject to sin, he will not see fit to create all the spirit of men upon the temporal earth, and so that they may be content with all that befall them because of sin, and not fall into great guilt and shame. So you remember, when Adam and Eve sinned, there was guilt and shame. So Azael said, no, let's create them on the earth so that they will not be subjected to guilt and shame, so that they feel sin is part of them. But that would mean they will be condemned. There won't be salvation or redemption because they will be content with sin. So this is the two forces that we have to understand as to why we don't know where we came from. Because right now, everything is run by the fallen watchers and their followers, mankind, who have subjected themselves and pledged their loyalty to them. 112. So not the Messiah is standing up to defend his stand as to where we should be created. And after Enoch said he had all these things, he said not a word, but said pondering them in his heart. Like I said, Enoch said it's more like a child. He removed all his power and supreme knowledge because he's at the edge of eternity. It's like that bed that I talked about. So this is the bed that I was talking about. When they are incubating its eggs, it removes all its feathers so that it become like its young, and it will be developing the feather anew. So I looked at this bed, and all I could sense, all I could remember and attribute it to is how Father is a genius. He made everything to be in plain sight, yet we don't see it. So I don't know its name, but in a local Tswana language we call it koro. Herero we call it toko. So I see here Anthony Mallen is saying koro, so I don't know what's his scientific name. The hornbill, maybe. The hornbill, I think. Yeah, possibly it's called the hornbill. So yeah. So now we're in 112. And after Enoch said he had all these things, he said not a word, but sat pondering them in his heart. And Moses stood forth in the midst of the light of the presence. So you see, these are the angels in the midst of the light of the presence of the Father. So they exist with him eternally. That's why before we are born, they're even there, yet they can be born with us. I don't think you get me. So Mozart, the Messiah, is there in the light of the presence of the Father, and they're discussing this with the Father at the edge of eternity, at the edge of his living place. And then Mozart, the Messiah could be born like us by a woman, yet he was there discussing how and where he could be born in flesh, or so those are the angels of presence. So they always exist with the Father. So he creates them from himself, or they create them from themselves, because himself, I'm talking about oneness, but there is Shekinah, the female power that reveals everything, the matter. and his gentle face radiated like the light, and he was calm and confident. And he is our hero and our lovely one. And he stood there as the advocate for all men to plead with Anuka said in our behalf, and said, Father, I come here to speak openly on behalf of all the children of men who may sin or who may have corrupted their way. And I come here to take the part of all the weak and fearful, so that there may be found compassion for them in heaven, and so they find rich forgiveness upon the earth. And I come here before you now to lay the foundation of righteousness, so that the children of men may be empowered over evil. And I say now that for the sake of righteousness, you must not create the spirit of men on the earth. So the Satans are saying, create them on the earth. Messiah said, no, don't create them on the earth. For the sake of salvation, for the sake of righteousness, don't create them on the earth. Don't listen to them. And righteousness comes into play with the joining of the spirits of life in creation together with the human soul, who are the result of your loving kindness. And righteousness will give rise to their holy dominion. And righteousness is the perfect harmony of fellowship man has with you and with all the living spirit of life in the elements of the earth where you reside. And men and angels shall act in concert together to bless and expand their gift of life, and to sustain each one of your purpose for them, as expressed in the day you created them. So the day you created them, so where will you create them? This will be the creation that will happen in Elder. And also they shall act as to ensure the continuance of their work in holiness and perfection of ways during the course of the earth. And this same force of righteousness will follow them out of Eden in the temporal world, in so much that they will never be alone. So if you continue, you'll see that winter also will also be standing to support Messiah, and then Rahavael also will stand to support Messiah, and Shabbathiel also will stand to support Messiah. Kayal, the living water, will stand to support Messiah. So these are the 24 elders that are mentioned. The washer named Tahamiel also will stand up to support. And now we'll reach, so if you reach 124, so now you see that, oh Holy Father, they must be created in elder, so that it will be forever known that the true land of the nativity of their soul is in the blossom of your loving kindness in elder. So like I said, to the angels of presence that are talking there, defending where we should be created, and even Messiah and even Azael, these are the angels of presence. So now here they're saying, oh Holy Father, they must be created in elder, so that it will be forever known that the true land of nativity of our soul is in the blossom of the loving kindness in elder, and they deserve to live with you where you live, because they have repented and overcome the world of sin and endured to remain faithful to your desire for them in the day of their creation. And this way they will receive the blessings of infinite joy and happiness that ring out in the songs of elder. And in this way, every little baby will be born with the spirit in elder and have complete innocence of heart, just like their father in elder. So that's why we say, blessed are those who are like the children. When the disciples asked Christ, who will be most powerful or the most holy, he said, the one who behaves like a child, because that's the innocence of heart of the Father, complete innocence of heart. So the little babies. And why little babies? Because our nativity of our soul is in the blossom of the loving kindness of our Father in elder. and we deserve to live with him where he lives. So this is why we say we all come from the Father. And because we originate, we will be created from his blossom, his very presence. It means if we are redeemed and we get our salvation, depending on our works to rid ourselves of sin, how we have repented or overcome the world, then we could be either in the light of his presence or in the blossom of his presence. So we could either become the angels of presence, the archangels, or just the citizens. So those all different levels depending on our level of the works that we put in. Or could be rejected because we rejected him, rejected his love.